Michelle Yeoh has had a very busy last couple of years, and it doesn't look like she's slowing down anytime soon. She's now starring in the Netflix series The Brother's Son. It's full of action, deceit, and family dysfunction. But should it be on your binge list? When the head of a powerful Taiwanese triad is shot by a mysterious assassin, his eldest son, legendary killer Charles Chairleg's son, heads to Los Angeles to protect his mother Eileen and his naive younger brother Bruce, who's been completely sheltered from the truth of his family until now. So, this first season is an 8 episode run with each episode hovering around 50 minutes. There are two, though, that stretch past the hour mark. Now, as I mentioned in this synopsis, this story revolves around triad families, which are criminal organizations that reach far past the borders of Taiwan. And the central focus is on Charles, the oldest son of one of the heads of a triad. And in an ambush, the father is wounded, so Charles is immediately sent to the US to protect his mom and younger brother, who have been living there for 15-ish years under different identities. Now, from there, we get sort of an odd couple pairing, combined with a ton of family honor, as well as even dysfunction, to make for an action series that also features some good comedy. Now, the first thing I want to touch on is the fight choreography. I often bemoan the fact that so many action scenes today are just spliced and cut so that we can't really ever see the skill and artistry of a well choreographed fight sequence. In this, there are a bunch of battles that aren't cut, but instead use creative camera work to capture the hand-to-hand combat in seamless ways. Now, of course, not every fight features long takes, but the majority of them do. And there's one large-scale fight that takes place at this outdoor venue, and in this instance, an FPV drone is used to fly around the mayhem. I mean, there's even a point when the camera flies between a character's legs to capture very unique angles. And this added a lot of excitement to the melee and also made the scenes so much more engaging. And there are also several close quarters fights, and the camera, it still finds a way to weave in and around the punches and kicks to create long and flowing shots that just immerse us in the violence. Speaking of violence too, this doesn't shy away from the gnarly visuals. I mean, more often than not, a fight involves knives and pointy things rather than guns. And when all the stabby action happens, we can see the objects poke through the other side of the victim, and this is satisfying blood spurts. I mean, yeah, it is clearly and obviously added in through CGI. But because the blood was less of the focus than the actual movements and the brutality, it's easy to overlook the less than realistic look of the blood spray. There's also a great deal of family drama that takes place within the story. I became hooked on the character journeys. The dynamic between Charles and Bruce, Bruce and Eileen, and then Charles and Eileen, and then, of course, all three together, it creates some wonderful tension that's believable and also developed naturally. We don't get large exposition dumps of character background, but over the course of the series, we learn so much about the characters and also get to watch them progress. There's a lot of growth to witness, especially with the brothers. They have a ton of internal conflict they both have to reconcile, and they're each troubled for different reasons. But they still share a commonality that the source of their discord stems from very similar places. We also get to witness parental favoritism that clearly affects both brothers, and can also sting of relatable truth if you've ever had to deal with that from a parental figure. Now, I also love the complexity that's created by stunting each son's growth and their decision making, teaching them to be dependent on commands from their parents rather than pursuing their own desires. Many of the situations arise throughout the season that are made to draw us into each of the characters. It's kind of funny that both can be endearing even though they're polar opposites at times. I mean, Charles is a deadly and confident gangster, while Bruce is a timid college student. But each of the actors, Justin Chien and Samsung Lee respectively, they create rich characters just full of varied emotional depth. Now, for all the action and the drama that there is, this is balanced really well with some comedic moments. Scenes aren't played for silliness, but instead come about naturally to elicit genuine laughs and smirks. Samsung Lee gets to be more goofy just because his character is continuously in shock and disbelief at each new discovery that he has about his family. But Justin Chien showcases subtle and dry humor, mainly captured through facial expressions that vary from disgusted to flabbergasted to annoyed. And then, wrapped all around this show is a very touching story that exemplifies growth and change. There's tons of heart, and the character progressions, they come about naturally. And I love how we watch a softening of Charles and then a more world-aware mentality for Bruce. And then, of course, let's not forget about Michelle Yeoh. She is spectacular in this as a no nonsense mom who's way tougher than she appears. And while she's not involved in much of the action, there are some moments when we get to see her skill. And she also has a very prominent role within the story, which creates complications that lead to exciting events. And then she also gets to share in some of the comedy. I mean, mainly it's when she's speaking very directly to either of her kids. She's firm and matter of fact, but it's also typically biting, but then still said with the motives of love or maybe protection. Now, despite being 8 episodes that are close to an hour each, the show moves along super quick without feeling rushed. The relationships are allowed to develop systematically, so the character moments aren't rushed but are believable and earned. There's even some romance that's tossed in, but in true dramatic fashion, it's usually more designed for conflict than true love. Now, not everything in this series is perfect. There is a lot of predictability to the narrative, especially when it comes to a supposed twist. Now, I knew it from the get go that something was wonky, but this didn't ruin the story. I was, however, consistently waiting for the reveal to be made, and that then made me impatient at times. I was still, though, on board for the revelation, even though I knew it was coming. I mean, I enjoyed the character complexities that were created because of it. Now, one drawback of this show is that while the story arc is mostly completed, it's left wide open for a ton more, especially with the post-credit scene in the last episode. Now, I think I can be satisfied with how things wrap up if the show wasn't going to be renewed, but I've also grown to really appreciate these characters so much that I don't want the journey to end. So overall, The Brother's Son is an invigorating action drama that focuses on gratifying character development and growth. The backdrop of triad danger creates an exciting world filled with danger and intrigue. Michelle Yeoh, Justin Chien, and Samsung Lee deliver captivating performances that mix skilled martial arts with believable family drama and genuine comedy that will have you glued to your seat. While there is predictability to the narrative, the tone and story arcs are endearing and satisfying. There's no sex or nudity, a lot of profanity, and then a ton of brutal and gory violence. I give The Brother's Son 4.5 out of 5 couches. This is a great series to kick off the new year with. I really hope you have as much fun with it as I did. Okay, so what shows are you looking forward to seeing in the next couple of months? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.